you would like to, you can open your Bible, 2 Peter, that's toward the back of your Bible. That's toward the book of Revelations, kind of book of Revelations, and turn back. You've got several small books. And turn back. Find 2 Peter. Everybody there? Chapter 1, 2 Peter chapter 1. Got it? Okay, everybody find it? I want y'all to see this. And of course, I know you read different translations, so I'm reading from the King James. So they may read a little bit different, but not a lot. I don't think there'll be that much difference. Okay, 2 Peter chapter 1, verse 3 says, according as his divine power hath given unto us all things. Okay? Now, who do you think that is, or what do you think that that's saying? What is that? What's that supposing?
Everything, all things.
His divine power, it would be God, maybe? You reckon he's talking about God?
Yeah.
Possibly, whatever God is. The sovereign one, the all-in-all one, has given unto us everything. Is that correct? All things. All things, and then the word pertains added by the King James translation, but it says all things unto life and godliness. Now, does all your translation pretty much say that?
We have the word pertains.
2 Peter chapter 2, verse 3. 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 3. Everybody's see it? Does your translation say that pretty much the same? God has given, I could just say it that way, his divine power, I could say God's divine power, which is all powerful, has given unto us all things. That would include everything, I guess, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
All things would be all things that pertain unto life and godliness through what? Knowledge. So would knowledge be key and important for you to receive all things that's been given to you?
Right.
Yes.
It would be a prerequisite.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
In other words, you could have all things given to you and not have knowledge of it and never receive it.
Or never even know you have it,
And
actually.
never even know you got it. You're exactly right. Through the knowledge of him that has called us to glory and virtue. Whereby, verse 4, look at this now, stay with me on it. Whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises, that by these what? Great and precious promises. That by these you might partake. And now the word partake could just be said backwards. You could say take part. So have you ever been to a dinner, a big meal, and not take part of it? Yeah, some people go and don't eat. So if you partake of it, that means you entered into it, or you begin to eat it, take part of it, right? So take part of what?
Divine nature.
Take part of what?
Divine nature.
What?
Divine nature.
Divine nature. Everybody say divine nature.
Divine nature.
All right, everybody say this. Say, my nature
My nature
is divine.
Is
divine.
Now that's not what Lynn Hayes said. That's what thus saith the Word of God. God said that. You are not an animal, even though we can act like an animal. So you don't have an animal nature, even though you can act like you do.
That's right.
Period. you have a divine nature. Now, you might not be drawing from it and taking the part of it that you have, but you still got it. And it's not based off something you do or don't do, something that you did or something that you didn't do. It's not based on anything at all. It has nothing to do with what you do. It has nothing to do with works. It has nothing to do with who you are, where you live, the color of your skin, etc., etc. It has to do with God. God has given you this. It's a gift of God.
That's right.
And so you can take part of the divine nature and escape the corruption that's in the world through lust or through strong desires. You can. Most of us don't. But you can. If you so choose to do. Now, if you so choose to do, then it will be a path that you will have to walk. Because nobody can walk your path for you. You walk your own path no matter who you are. Make your own choices.
Yeah.
And then you live with them. Amen? Exactly right. All right, with that, let's go over to Genesis chapter 1 and chapter 2. I want you to look at some things here. In Genesis chapter 1. Now, Genesis chapter 1, look at verse 14. So we'll start right there, verse 14, and read a few verses. Okay? It says, "And God said, Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and seasons." Let them be for signs. You see that word signs right there? That would be like the astrological wheel or the Mazzaroth. Because there are 12 signs in the Mazzaroth, or the astrological wheel. They're just out there. Whether you see them or whether you don't see them, whether you know they're there or you don't know they're there. And they are constantly emanating the energy that's a part of their section. Constantly. Whether you know it or don't know it. And they're just constantly doing that.
Mine says signs to mark sacred times.
To mark sacred times. So you add a little thing there. That sounds good. Okay, let's go back and let's read that again. Verse 14. "And God said, Let there be lights." You notice it says lights.
Yes.
"Let there be lights in the firmament.
Oh.
Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament Here you go. You need some, here, give her this water right there. Okay. Okay. There you go.
That heaven has got to get some heavens.
Yes, yes, it's plural. It generally always appears to be that way because there are two aspects of heaven. There's the above and below. You know, as Genesis 4, 5, 6, and 7 makes that abundantly clear. The heavens above and the heavens below. So that, there's two aspects of heaven. And I say this, I make this phrase constantly, make the two one. And the reason I say that is because that's the first facet of life. First facet of life. The word first is ikad, which means to unite, to bring together. What are you bringing together? The two facets of light. And I want you to see that. The two facets of light. And in both in the literal and in the spiritual. So in the natural and then the divine. There's two facets of life, and I want you to see that. And that's what he's saying right here in verse 14 again. We'll start all over there and let it go from there. And God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons, for days and for years, and let them be the lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth, and it was so. And God made two, everybody say two.
Two.
God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day or life, and the lesser light to rule the night or matter. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light upon the earth and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. The evening and the morning were the first. Now that's that passage of Scripture is controversial, simply because, and I'm going to tell you why I say it's controversial. This is what's considered by the historists or the literalists of Scripture, and that is, this was when the sun was set in place. And then you have the problem of Genesis 1 and verse 3, and God said, let there be light. And you have a problem right there, because this is the first day. So was the sun set in its place in the first day, or was it not set in place until the fourth day? And that, of course, is a conundrum. They try, wow, that creates a problem. And if God waited till the fourth day to set the sun in the heavens to give light, then all the vegetation He had created on the third day would not live, because it can't live without the light of the sun. Nothing can.
Right.
So you have a real contradiction here, and it also creates a major problem. But for literalists or Christians who are historists and trying to say that this is a literal 6-day creation, and the matter of fact, here's another problem that you have. You have 6 days that have an even and a morning, but the 7th day didn't. Now that's a problem. But it's there. It's there. You don't notice it because we don't read paying attention. We don't. I mean, we read because we're trying to get to the end of the chapter. Or the end of the book. That's what most people read. You read to try to get to you're trying to get to the climax. Some people don't even read 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, 5th chapter. They jump all the way over to the 12th chapter because they want to know the end result. They want to know what he did or she did or what happened to them. They want the climax. They just get to the nitty gritty. They don't want to go through it. But you can't do that. You can't do that. Reading the Bible, you can't read the Bible. You should study it. It should become a book that you study, because you can't get anything out of it if all you do is read it.
That's right.
Because it's not meant to be read. The way it's put together as a code, and it helps you to see you. Not somebody else, not something that was did 2, 6, 8, 12,000 years ago. Something God did then, but He don't do now. See, that's how we read the thing. We read it with that impression before we even get started. That's why we can't extract from it what it's really saying. All of this is about you. Everything I've read is something about you. And there's nothing about you that God left out. Everything God gave you, God intended you to have. And now to cultivate that and to work with that, for you to do that, is part of your work, and it's part of something that God has called you to do. Now, if you notice in verse 14, it says, let me see if, let's just read it real quick. Verse 14, it says, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide. And everybody say divide.
Divide.
Now, what do you think of when you hear that word divide?
Separate.
Separate. That's the first thing you're going to think of. To separate. And so you see the day and the night separated. Are they? And think about that before you say yes. Because they're not. They're not separated. They're not separate. And actually, if I were to draw the sun here, and I were to draw the earth here, and I realize that the rays of the sun and the power of the sun is constantly projecting, and it's projecting itself, is it just projecting on the surface that's noticeable by the day, or does that light filter around to the backside of the sun, of the earth? Yes, it does. Simply because it's light. It's not just necessarily saying it's trying to see through the earth. It's just that at night it still will give light on the earth, at night even. And it does that in many different ways. So the word divide right here, when you see that, you automatically think separate. And here's what that word, actually the word is badal. That's the Hebrew word. And it actually means to select. And the word select means to give special value to something, or excellence to a certain thing, or to choose. And then it means to distinguish. That's what it's not separating. It's giving value, and it's giving distinction. It's distinguishing something about the day and something about the night. It's not separating them. It's giving distinguished characteristics to them. So there's a distinguished characteristic to the day, and there's a distinguished characteristic to the night.
What did you say the Hebrew word was?
It's badal. It's spelled with a beth, a vav, and a lamid. So it's these two characters, these three characters right here. It's a beth and a lamid. Lamid. Badal. It's the beth number 2, dalit number 4, and lamid number 30. Beth badal. That's how the word is spelled. It doesn't mean separate. Now I realize that's everybody has accepted that. Everybody's looked at that. And see what God is doing in this entire, in everything, as you see this continually unfold, you're going to see there are always two aspects to something. And God never intended for the two aspects of something to be divided. Jesus addressed this in Matthew 14. He said, a divided house will fall. It cannot stand. And the whole purpose of what we call salvation, or the message, the New Testament message of salvation, the whole purpose of that message is that love unites. And so the whole message of Jesus, about the story of Jesus, is about the story of love, and that love is trying to give a picture of what this energy we call God is. Because that picture had gotten corrupted and distorted and perverted through religion to try to make God into some kind of a judge. Hello? That's, most people see him that way, sitting on the throne up there in heaven. And he's got a great big book, and he's got your name in it. All your names are written in that big book, and you're in trouble. Because everything that you did that was wrong, he got it. He got a picture of it too. It's on a reel-to-reel. He can play it back to you. Let's see it. Say, oh God, I didn't know you saw that.
If you're bad enough, he'll blot it out.
Ooh, well there you go. That's another one. So the message of the gospel, the true message of the story of Jesus, was a message that said God is love. God is not this angry, this ruler in the sky that wanting to kill everything and everybody. Because when you read the Old Testament, most people do read the Old Testament and say, well, God was angry back then. He killed everything, killed anybody, told them to go out and kill the whole nation. He killed their dogs, their cats, and their kids. I mean, you know, who in the world would serve a God like that? Well, that idea of being a ruler or a God that had that kind of hate in its heart was something that the Gnostic movement was trying to erase and let people see. This is an improper picture of what the the source of the power of the entire universe, or the Creator, is. It is not that. It is love. Unconditional love on top of that. It's love that loves you, period, no matter what you do or what you do not do. It loves you. That was the whole message. And we've really lost that. We've lost it today, even especially in the community they call themselves Christians. Because Jesus in His high priestly prayer in John 17 said, this is how you'll know that you are a disciple of Christ. You love each other. You love everybody.
That's right.
Huh? We love everybody. Yeah, because God does. Why? Because God sees the divine spark that He put in them. It comes out of its essence. In other words, all that God is what you are. I mean, you are made of God's stuff. Period. You are. No matter what you think about yourself, you're made of God's stuff. And God's stuff's main ingredients is love.
That's right.
Love. And so, but our problem when we go to the gospel message was to be saved from the Greek word sozo. And the Greek word sozo, guess what? Now I want you to hear this, and I wish the whole Christian world could hear this. The message of sozo, or you must be saved, means that you must be made whole. Why? Because you've lived a divided life. Just look it up. I would encourage every one of you, take the word saved, sozo, and take the word salvation, sonterio, and look it up, and you will see it means to unite or make whole. In other words, take your divine nature and take your human nature, and God put them together. Now you marry them and you merge them together. And you realize that it's not that you're just wicked and corrupt and just sinful and fleshful and have an animal nature and trying to kill your ego. It ain't got nothing to do with that. That seems to be the message of the Christian community, and that's not true. You're just a sinner. You're no good. You know, you were born in sin. You were born that way. And now God can't have nothing to do with you because you're that way. Well, then God's the one created you. God's the one that built you in the womb of your mama. If God created you that way, it's God that built you, not you yourself, not your mother. You are God's building. 1 Corinthians 1:3, or chapter 3, verse 9. You are God's building. You are. No matter who you are, you're God's building. And God didn't build you as a divided vessel, but God put you together and said, now your work in life will be to make the two one. That's what the word first means in Genesis 1:5 when He said, and look over there, Genesis 1:5, and God called the light day and called the darkness night. And notice that God called the light day and He called the night. I could say it this way. He called the light yom. That's the Hebrew word yom. And that means facets of life. Many facets of life. And the darkness He called night. That's the word layil. And actually the word layil means to fold back. Or in other words, it's a picture of the DNA that folds and twists back on itself. That's the very first characteristic of your being. You got one strand of your DNA from your mama, and you got one strand of DNA from your daddy, and they twist together and they give you the DNA. Or you got one strand RNA from your mom, one strand of RNA from your daddy, and then they twist together and give you a DNA. See, this book is both biological and anatomical. It's about you, period. About your how marvelous you're created. And for us to see that, it is hard because of all of the things that we have been taught. We don't realize that we have a divine nature. We don't really realize that. If we did, then we would act different. We would think different. We would talk different. Come to a realization of that so that we own that and realize, wait a minute, I might be acting like a dog, or I might be acting like a bird or a fish, or a plant, or an insect. I think those are all the kingdoms, aren't they? I might be acting that way, but that's not the way I was created to be. I'm created to be divine as God is. Because I am the reflection and I am the picture of what God is. So that word divided is badal. And if you would just go with me, just hold your place right here in Genesis 1 and just turn with me to chapter 14. Genesis chapter 14. Everybody got it? Genesis chapter 14 and look at verse 15. Everybody there? It says, and he divided. There's that same word again. Does all of your translations say divided there too?
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Yes.
Did your translation say divided in both places that I just read in Genesis 1 and here in Genesis chapter 14 verse 15?
Yeah.
Well, I wonder why this word is not badal. This word is kolak. Hear that? Badal. Kolak. They don't sound alike. They're not spelt alike. Because this word right here, kolak, means to separate and divide. Now, if God was trying to separate and divide the light from the darkness, then why didn't He use the word kolak instead of badal over here in chapter 1? Now, to me, that's just common sense. And anybody, if anybody can think logically or with common sense, and you look up, and all you have to do is look this up in the Strong's Concordance or any other kind of concordance, and you will see out of the very mouth of these, whoever separated these particular Hebrew words, they're different words. They have different definitions. But they put these words in here to confuse you and me. Because they're trying to tell you a story that's not true. It's a kindergarten story that you try to sell to a child, and we bought the thing hook, line, and sinker, and it's just about impossible to change it. You know, it's very difficult. And you can go all the way through Scripture, and you can see this distinction of the words that I just gave you. The two different words. That's translated with the one English word, divide, or divided. So you have badal, or you have kolak. Kolak means to separate, to divide. Badal means to select and to distinguish. You are a select and distinguished individual. And you are made of two aspects of your being, the physical and the spiritual, the human and the divine. And your work and your lot in life is to merge the two together. That's the word ikad, which is translated for the word first in Genesis 1:5. It means to make the two one, to make the light and the darkness, merge that into one entity. It takes both of those, the light and the dark. You could say it takes the positive and the negative. It takes the male and the female aspect to make you, to create your being. But once you've been created, whether you are manifest as masculine or feminine, it doesn't matter. You still have male and female attributes and characteristics, and it's your work in life to merge the two. You still have body, and you still have divine essence, and it's your work to work toward marrying them, or to work toward making them into one whole. Okay, I want you to turn with me now and look at Genesis 1:5 again. We'll go down there and look at that. And God called the light day, and the darkness He called night. The evening and the morning, they were the first. And Ikad, they were the first. They were. God intended for you to marry them or merge them or put them together. Now, go with me over to chapter 2. And look at verse 11. Verse 11. And it starts out and it says, the name of the first, that's the word, Echad, same word, Echad. The name of the first is Pison. Now these are the 4 rivers that are called 4 rivers that are supposedly in the Middle East and historically and literally never ever have been found. Can't be found. They don't exist over there. Even though these names, they take these names. For instance, let me give you the meaning of this word Pison. Actually the word means great outpouring or being, or it means carried to its highest degree. Describing the spirit at work in man's consciousness. That's what this word means, Pison. If you look this word up, if you get a book of names and meanings of the names of people, places, things in Scripture, then this is what that will tell you that this particular river that's called Pison means. It means great outpouring, it means being, it means carried to its highest degree. It's describing the spirit that is at work in man's consciousness. It is. It's constantly at work in your... Now that doesn't mean that we're following what the Spirit's doing or what the Spirit's saying, but it's constantly at work in my consciousness, constantly stirring me, and maybe I'm ignoring it, maybe I'm not, maybe I'm... It means the Spirit diffusing its ideas of intelligence and light. And I like that aspect of Pison. It means the Spirit diffusing. I like that word, diffusing.
Yes.
That's a diffuser right back there. And what that does, it takes the ingredients that's put in it and it merges them together and it pushes them out in a mist or a cloud. One mist or one cloud, and then you're breathing that, or you're inhaling that, or you're smelling that that's been diffused. And that's the part of this meaning of this first river, this Echad. Make the 2 one, uniting this thing together. That's the first meaning of that word, Pison. It means the Spirit diffusing its ideas of intelligence and light. How do you gain intelligence? Through knowledge. Through study. Through seeking and searching. That's why Jesus said, seek, you'll find. Knock, the door will be opened. But you can't find something you're not looking for. You've got to be looking for it. You've got to be seeking it. So the Spirit diffusing its ideas of intelligence and light, the activity of the divine idea in their fullness. And that's what's going on inside us, inside you and inside me. It's constantly going on, trying to get its way in us and through us. Now, go back with me to Genesis 1, or maybe that's where you're at, I'm not sure where you're at. Back, verse 14 again, it says, and God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to divide the day from the night, and let them, and now remember, we're not talking about separate, and that's how we read it, and that's how we see it, and that's how we think it, and that's not what it's saying. You're trying to understand, we're trying to unite whatever the day, which represents facets of life, and whatever the night, which means the layil, that DNA, that which is folded over in me to make me. And we have to mold them, we have to blend them, we have to make them one, diffuse them together. And let them be for signs and for seasons, for days and nights, days and years. Let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light upon the earth. And it was so, and God made two, everybody say two. Two great lights. The greater light to rule the day. Which one would you think that is?
Sun.
The S-U-N, of course, the sun. That's the male. That's the male aspect of your being. Or you could say that's the divine masculine aspect of your being. So he made 2 great lights. So the sun, the greater light, the sun, and the lesser light, which is what? Absolutely. Now, think about this. Look at it literally. Think about this. What does the moon represent? It represents an aspect of your being. It represents the feminine aspect of your being, even if you're a man. Because a woman, her menstrual cycle follows the moon. It does. It's set up on a 28-day cycle. The woman's menstrual cycle follows the moon cycle. It does. Well, what does a man do during that period of time? I mean, he has gonads. Does it affect him? It sure does. Where does the moon affect you? One word I'm looking for. And the moon is always considered that. And you know why? Because the moon's not stable, is it? No. The sun is, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. What I mean, the sun, as long as there's not a cloud coverage, the sun is the same all the time. It's just bright. The moon's not. The moon only stays one way for 3 days. It's constantly waxing and waning, just like we are.
Yeah. There's,
You are constantly having 3 days good and 3 days bad. You're constantly up and down. Hello? What do you call that?
gravity.
Emotions. Your emotions. The moon is emotional.
That's right.
Why? Because it's constantly changing. It's emotional. What controls you? The lesser light or the greater light? Yeah, most every one of you. You're controlled by the moon. You're controlled by the cycles of the moon. Up, down, in, out, man, it's constant. It's hard to be constant. It's hard to be. Why? Because we have not taken the time. We have not even taken the opportunity. And it presents itself all the time. It presents itself every other day in an opportunity. Well, I'm going to be emotional, a basket case, or I'm going to be stable. I'm going to go ahead and smile and suck it up and say, that's a wonderful day.
Amen.
It's your choice. It's your choice. Notice that. And notice what this passage says very clearly. He said, God made the two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. And He made the stars also, and God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light upon the earth and to rule over the day and over the night and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw and said, it's a good deal. Ain't nothing bad about it.
So when it's talking about making the stars, that's actually the zodiac, right?
Exactly. It's exactly talking about the zodiac, because every day that exists, whether it's raining or sunshine, the zodiac, the 12 signs in that zodiac and all the astrological wheel is infecting you. I'm going to use that word instead. It's infecting you, or trying to contaminate you with itself. It's trying to get you and me to respond to its energy, because it's constantly giving out its energy. Constantly. It's giving out its energy right now. And it's up to you and me to, we have to begin to take the time to understand that energy and to realize what that energy is all about. So the sun and the moon, the light of the moon, or the emotions, are given to you to rule the darkness or the matter aspect of your being. But guess what? It's kind of reversed, because the matter aspect of our being has taken control of the emotions, and now we act emotionally. Yeah. See that? Yeah, think about that. Have to think about that a little bit. I don't know about that, Brother Lynn. That sounds pretty far-fetched now. Now I want you to, when we talk about this word light, and I'm going to put it over here on the board. We talk about the word light. I just put it right. Light. Aleph. Wav. Rash. This is number one. It's the Aleph. It represents the power of, we can call it God or whatever. This is the Vav. It's number 6. This represents the male and mostly fertilization, the seed. And this is the Rash. It's 200. It's the cosmic container. And when you look at that word, you have the light that's projecting, it's the life, God, source, that's projecting itself via the male seed, or the rays. You see, the rays of the sun are constantly coming forth and spewing its seed of life toward us, in us, on us, constantly. And then you have the Rash, which is number 2 is the Beth, and then 20 is the Qaf, and then 200 is the Rash. This gives it cosmic life. So constantly we're receiving the seeds of the divine. Remember, you are made of the divine nature, not animal nature. You can act like an animal if you want to, but that doesn't mean that you have an animal nature. Doesn't mean that you have a bird nature. Doesn't mean that you have a fish nature. You have a divine nature because that's what God gave you. And you can act from that divine nature, or you can act like an animal because you see an animal the way it acts. And that's basically what we do. But you look at this, and this is called light, L-I-G-H-T. And to understand this word and to look at that word and realize that that word light is where creativity comes from. And I'm hoping that you can see that simply because of the spelling of the word. Aleph, that's the divine source. The Wav, that's the seed. For everything comes from a seed, no matter if it's a tree, a bird, a dog, human, etc., etc. Comes from a seed. And then the Rash, it has a divine home. It has a divine, it has the container. It's like when the seed, when the egg penetrates into the womb of the woman, into the egg, it's in that shell. And that shell is where it's going to grow, it's going to develop. Same thing's true with an egg. It's in that shell, and that shell has to be hard enough to protect it so that the chick can develop. That embryo sac that's in there, that place that seed's growing, has to be firm enough, hard enough, tough enough to protect it until when? Until it breaks that shell, until it breaks that water, until that thing is developed, it's built, and God said, okay, here's my building, it's time for me to move in. I got my building built, now it's time for me to move in. And there's a far-fetched difference between that and the fact that you're just waiting on yourself to die whenever that's going to happen. If you're in a real big hurry to go to heaven, you'll go ahead and die pretty soon. Get there a lot quicker. But you're not in no hurry, are you? No. Most of us prolong it as long as we possibly can, right? Want to live, want to live some more. I want to live and do some more, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, here's where so much confusion. In everything I've said this morning, there is a lot of confusion built around us because of what we've been taught. And I know that, and I'm very much aware of that, but right here, I want you to go with me over to Genesis chapter 3, and we talked about this some last week in closing, at the end. And again, everything will come back to, in Genesis chapter 1, there are 6 days there are 6 days in Genesis chapter 1, and then in Genesis chapter 2, verses 1 through 4, there's 1 day. Okay? These 6 days have evening and morning. This other one does not have evening and morning. And God, when He finished these 6 days, and six is the number of man or humanity or the body. 6 is the number of the physical body, the torso. But then it capped it off with this Sabbath. He gave it. And He didn't put an evening and a morning on that day. He didn't. He capped it off with that. He didn't put an evening and a morning. And then God began to show us how this thing works. And we have, because we've made a story, such a story out of it, with Adam and Eve. You know, I say that Adam and Eve is not in Genesis 1 and 2. Adam, the word Adam is not a man's name. The word Adam is referring to the human body, human existence, all human existence. No matter if it's, no matter where you live or what, it's all human existence. All of humanity, that's Adam. Male and female, doesn't matter, all of it. But then when Genesis chapter 2, when you get over here to this Sabbath day, I decided to do something right here with this guy. He's
Waterhead.
Yeah, he's big-headed. And the reason I decided to do that on the Sabbath, and right here is where there's so much confusion, God put within man this character that's called E, Esh, and E, Esh, Ah. The E, Esh is male, and this is the positive side of your brain, and the E, Esh, Ah is female. And that's the, believe it or not, this side of your brain is the important side, the female side. It's not that the male side is not important, it is important, but the male side is the side that just spews the seed. Now what good is the earth if the sun just shines on it and it's like the moon? It ain't no good. It don't produce nothing. There's no life on the moon. No. Even though it's emotional. As far as we know, in planets in our solar system, they say that there's possibly 1 billion planets that's like this Earth that has the potential for life. Because there has to be something here for there to be a potential of life. And what that sun does, and that sun's not dictating how that seed will be or what it'll do or where how it'll grow. The sun is just simply spewing it out. It's just exactly, I don't mean this to be gross or ugly, it's just exactly like a male when he releases the seed from himself. And he has that moment. He releases hundreds of thousands. I mean, it's like he sprays a plethora. And just trying to get one. But dear God, there's hundreds of thousands of seed going for the target. It's like when you watch I love to see a maple tree in the fall spew its seeds. It will spew millions and millions of seeds from one maple tree. And you know what it said? I'm just looking for one sprout. I'm just trying to get one. So when you take the male side of your brain and you realize the male side of your brain is designed to receive from the sun, from the rays of the sun, seeds. And that's what it's supposed to do. But it projects those seeds into the female side. Now that's when the work begins. The female side. that's when the house starts to be built. And I don't care what they do to a man to try to make a woman out of him, he never gonna have a baby. Just ain't. And I'm gonna tell you why he can't. He can't. Why? He doesn't have the DNA equipment to do that. I don't care how they manipulate his body and try to inject it and operate on it and take it and change it, da. He ain't built that way. I mean, I don't mean that to be ugly with whatever, with people who are wherever they're at. I don't mean that at all in that respect, not trying to prove a point. Really, there's no point to prove. I mean, there's no point to prove reality. The male is projecting a seed. That's his job. That's what he does. He spews out a seed. And the female, now she selects that seed. See, when that maple tree, y'all know what I'm saying? When you got maple trees in your yard, hadn't you? They got them little, call them like little whirly birds. When they're falling off that maple tree, they just, and especially if the wind blowing, it will blow off hundreds of thousands of them at a time. It does. Trying to get a seed in the ground, trying to get a little sprout, a little springing tree. And it works pretty doggone good. You look at the earth. I mean, you look at the earth. Look how it's just abundant. You talking about abundance? The earth is abundant in productivity. And because it's created to be that way. Now, I want to break that down into your brain. That's how your brain works. Your brain is abundant in this side. Your brain is abundant in seeds. You have more thoughts. Sometimes they run so many of them, you get a headache because there's so many thoughts. So many seeds are being thrown in. But when you take one of those thoughts and you begin to incubate that thing, you start to muse on it, you start to chew on it, you start to meditate on it, you start to confess it, you start to say it over and over and over, you're growing you something. And you may not have thought about what you're going to grow. You may not have thought what it's going to produce. But it's designed to produce. Some of them, just exactly like the parable of the sower in Mark chapter 4, which is called the granddaddy of all parables, the king of all parables, Mark chapter 4, is in Mark and Luke. It says some seeds will produce 30, some seeds produce 60, some of those suckers will get you 100-fold. And everybody, everybody's getting on the bandwagon with that stuff, especially the prosperity preachers, and say, y'all need to sow your dollars into my ministry, and bless God, God's just going to bless you, and if you'll sow 100, God's going to give you back 1,000. Or if you can believe for it, if you're going to go to the 100%, you're going to get back $10,000. Just give me $100. And people are gullible, and people do it. And I've seen people give the last money that's fixing to use to pay the power bill and throw that in the pot and pay that preacher, hallelujah. He walks away with all your money, and you got to go home and they come cut your power off. You know how I know? Been there, done that. Been there, done that. Sure enough, yeah. Been there, done that, and seen. And you know what they said? Hey, I'm just telling you what God is, your faith. You just didn't have enough faith to get your power cut on or to get your money back. You just didn't have enough faith to do it. I wouldn't want to be disrespectful or ugly at all the preachers that preach that crap on the TV, but they do, and that's what it is. That's what it is. And it leaves a lot of people empty-handed. A lot of people empty-handed. But I want you to, I'm really trying to emphasize on this right here, the Esh and the Esha. And it's magnified right here at the end of chapter 3. And it's not, to my knowledge, it's not been understood hardly at all. Now I want you to follow with me because I didn't have time last week. I closed with this last week, and I'm going to have to close with it again this week. But I want you to see it again with me because I want to point out something in this, in chapter 3 and verse 20. Pointing out something. and Adam. That's humankind. That's mankind. That's not a male figure that God called his name and said, okay, you're this good-looking guy. You know, I don't care what color skin you want to put him and how the texture of his hair is, how long or short, or any way you want to paint him up. This is talking about humankind. It tells you that very clearly in the 5th chapter. It says, and male and female called he them Adam.
That's right.
Humanity. Okay? So when it says this, now here's what it's saying. It says, and humanity called his wife. You see that word wife? That is Esha. That's what that is. That's this female side of your brain. Please watch this closely and listen to it. And humanity called. Humanity saw this. It's not what God said. This is, God created the thing to work. And it works exactly like God created the thing to work. And humanity called his wife's name Ha'eva, the mother of everything that's living. And that's exactly what the female side of your brain will do. It will become the mother of all of the things that you produce in your life. And it will nourish even the things that you don't want. The mother side of the Esha, will try to protect them things. It'll deceive you, say all kinds of stupid things, all kinds of weird stuff will happen. You'll try to protect these things that you cause your mother to create. Now, you can create anything through that channel that you want to. And that's where you go back to the book of Proverbs. As a man thinketh. As a man thinketh. Well, what's the thought? The thought is the seed that the sun spewed out through its rays and put it in my male brain. And I started thinking about it. And I started thinking about, that ain't a bad idea. Nah, I sure can't do that. You can disregard it anytime you want to. Or you can just keep chewing on it. And it'll start to produce. Why? Because it will produce after its kind. That's exactly how it's designed to do. It'll produce after its kind. And Genesis 1:1, I'm closing. So verse 20, and I realize verse 20 is so corrupted in what I'm talking about here in Genesis chapter 3:20, and Adam called his wife's name Eve, because she is the mother of all living. Which actually that word Ha'eva has its root in the tree of life. Genesis 2:9. The word tree of life, Che, is the root for this word Ha'eva, which says this, and it's only used twice in the Old Testament. Here and then the first of the next chapter. But if you get it correctly, if you get this picture, you can understand it's referring to the female side of your brain. It's referring to your wife, your Esha.
Yes.
And you know, God's not calling this woman's name Eve. Adam did that. Humankind did that. If you look at the passage good, it said, and Adam called.
Yes.
Not God. I've shown you time and time again what God called the night day. God called this, that, and the other. What God called, but this is not what God called. This is what humanity called this. To get that clear, to get you get a clear understanding of the biological makeup of your being, because this is a book about your biology. It's a book about your DNA. It's a book about your life. It's a book about you, because you are the one that you're the apple of God's eye. You're the one that's important to God. You're the one that God loves you. God don't want to do without you, period. God loves you, and God don't want to do without you at all. God wants to love on you from now on, all the days of your life. All right, back to Genesis chapter 1:1, and I'm going to close with this phrase right here. I'm going to put this on the board. All right, this is considered one word in Genesis chapter 1. That's a word in Genesis chapter 1. And that's a word in Genesis chapter 1. This word right here, Beth, Resh, Aleph, Shin, Yod, Tov, is the word Barashit. And actually, it's the word Beth, which means container, and the Hebrew word Rashit. The word Rashit means progeny, or the child that comes from your womb. That's what the word means. It's called that. It's referring to your first child. Genesis 25, chapter 25, verse 25 is a story about two boys in one womb of a woman, twins in the womb of a woman. And he said, the first child, Rashid, the first of your progenies come out red and hairy all over. It's a metaphor. It's a metaphor. And so the very first word, this is translated in the Bible, in the beginning. In the beginning. Barashit. Beth Rashit. And it's made of two words. This word right here is called bara. It's the same as the word created. And that's basically what it means. It's referring to the Son. Because that's what the Son is. It is a creator, constantly doing that. And then the last phrase of this right here is sheet, or sha'it. And actually, it's the moon. And it is that part of you that it's your existence. That's what the moon does. It helps you live in your existence. And these right here are the two that God is constantly, throughout the rest of this book, saying, make the two one. Make your body and make your existence one. Don't just live to exist. Live to be. Don't just exist. That's we settle for that, don't we? I'm just existing. Well, make the two one. Merge your body and make your spirit. Let them become one. Mingle them. Diffuse them. Bring them together into one entity. Amen?